Welcome to Ghost Boys Top 10 Best Christmas Horror Movies Part 5. Part 5. Festive horror movies with tons of Christmas vibes. Movies so scary, movies so merry, movies so very bloody red like a cherry. Tales of the glories and scary ghost stories. Bloody Christmas, yeah, things are getting gory. Ghost of Christmas past, you can kiss my fucking ass. Yeah, I got the spirit, I love the holidays. And yes, I love Christmas, but Halloween's my fave. And I already said it, but I'll say it one more time. Welcome to Ghost Boys Top 10 Best Christmas Horror Movies Part 5.
Hello, everybody, and happy holidays. It's that time of year again, and first things first, I would like to apologize for my terrible sounding voice. I'm currently getting over a cold, and I've been waiting to record the audio for this video, but as of the time I'm recording this, it's December 1st, and I'm running out of time. So I just decided to record this, even though I sound horrible. So please forgive me for that. But anyways, I'm here today to discuss 10 more of the best Christmas-themed horror movies. And as usual with these types of lists, I love having a wide variety of different horror subgenres, including slashers, creature features, psychological, anthology, and paranormal hauntings. None of these movies are in any kind of order, but number 1 is definitely my personal favorite. Now with all that being said, let's begin our list. There's something in the barn. An American family inherits a house in Norway, only to find their Christmas festivities sparkling murderous rage in a small but vengeful elf. So this is a horror comedy, but it's definitely more comedy than horror. I found it to be kind of similar to Krampus or Gremlins, but definitely not as scary as Krampus. So basically, this family moves into a new house, and the son discovers there's an elf living in their barn. He speaks to one of the townspeople, and they explain to him the folklore about the barn elf, and how there's certain rules you must follow. And if you follow the rules correctly, the elf will be your friend and do good deeds for you. But if you break the rules, he becomes extremely angry, and will basically kill you. The poster for this film makes the elf look very small, so I expected the elf to be a tiny CGI creature. So I was very surprised to see that the elf is actually played by a normal actor. But he did a great job and gave a fantastic performance. Something else I wasn't expecting with this movie is how wholesome and heartfelt it is. At times, it seems like a family-friendly movie, with the characters trying to bond with each other and just have a peaceful holiday together as a family. But then you have the occasional somewhat violent death, and remember, this is a horror comedy, even though it leans more into the comedy genre. This film also has a lot of beautiful snowy scenery, and an overall warm, cozy, Christmassy feeling. So if you want a Christmas horror comedy with a lot of comfort and charm, then I recommend watching There's Something in the Barn. Sick for Toys. A man accepts an invitation to have Christmas dinner with the beautiful and strangely alluring Amelia. But once at dinner, he soon realizes that Amelia and her brother Edward are not what they seem. Okay, so first thing I need to say is that this is a very fucked up story that deals with some pretty dark subject matter. So I just figured I should give everyone a warning about that before I talk about anything else. Alright, so I don't know how to put this in a lighthearted way, so I'll just say it bluntly. This movie is about a brother and sister who were terribly abused as children. And as a result, they're very mentally unstable, and they themselves start abusing people for their own pleasure. The main woman in this movie basically has the mentality of a child, so she doesn't know what she's doing is wrong, and you kind of go back and forth between seeing her as a villain and then feeling really sorry for her. But the actress is incredible, and plays the psychotic character extremely well. Her character is also obsessed with Christmas, and loves to decorate for the holidays. So there's tons of Christmas decorations with lots of Christmas lights and Christmas trees everywhere. Something else I found very unique and interesting in this film is that it explores the horrors of medication and different pharmaceutical drugs. I don't know why, but I found that part really fascinating. This movie also has lots of surprises, twists and turns, and a shocking climax that I definitely wasn't expecting. So if you're looking for a bloody, fucked up movie that will bring you Christmas joy, then I recommend watching Sick for Toys. The Leech. A devoted priest welcomes a struggling couple into his home during Christmas time. However, his simple act of kindness soon becomes the ultimate test of his faith. So this movie is defined as a horror comedy, but I think it's much more of a slow burn psychological thriller. I thought this film was kind of similar to I Trapped the Devil or The Lodge. And not just because it's a Christmas horror movie, but because it deals with religious themes. And I find it really intriguing whenever a horror movie incorporates religion into the story. This movie wasn't at all what I expected, but I mean that in a good way. I figured the story would be pretty cliche and predictable, but it definitely was not. This film is a slow descent into madness, and you really don't know if it's supernatural or psychological. And the last 30 minutes are absolutely insane. The lines between what is real and what isn't become so blurred, and it's just the most batshit, crazy, strange, disturbing ending to a movie that I've seen in a long time. So if more religious, psychological horror movies is what you seek, then I recommend checking out The Leech. Santa isn't real. After surviving a vicious attack by the real Kris Kringle, Nikki must convince her friends that Santa is real when he returns the following Christmas, looking for blood. So I was hooked on this movie just by the opening scene. It starts with a girl decorating for Christmas late one night, and then in the background we see Santa Claus slowly and eerily slide down the chimney, and then he sneaks up on her and slits her wrists. Everyone thinks she tried killing herself, and nobody believes her story about Santa. And we, the audience, don't really know what to believe either, because we did see Santa Claus attack her, but the main character was drinking and popping pills, so she could have easily hallucinated the whole thing. The design of the Santa mask isn't anything special, but Santa in this movie still managed to be surprisingly unsettling and very creepy. Especially his voice, I found it to be horrifying. This movie brings up a lot of interesting questions about people's different beliefs. Like, if you believe in God and Jesus, the devil, demons, and angels, is it really that crazy to believe that Santa Claus might actually be real? Also, I always have to point out when a Christmas horror movie has great Christmas vibes. This film has fantastic Christmas atmosphere and beautiful snowy scenery. It's hard to find good Christmas horror movies, but it's even harder to find good Christmas horror movies that actually look and feel snowy and Christmassy. So if you want a fun, festive, holiday horror movie that will give you the Christmas feels, then I recommend watching Santa Isn't Real. Let It Snow. Separated from her boyfriend after sneaking onto a restricted mountain, Mia must survive not only against nature, but also the masked snowmobile riding killer who's out for blood. I'm really not sure why nobody talks about this movie. It has a good story, a great production value, and an incredible performance by the lead actress. This movie begins with a couple arriving at a lavish ski resort, and the hotel definitely has some eerie vibes. One of the main characters even makes a joke comparing the hotel to the one in The Shining. But even though it seems a little creepy, the whole hotel is beautifully and colorfully decorated for Christmas, with Christmas trees, garland, lights, and wreaths all around. Once the characters arrive at the mountain and start their adventure, things quickly take a turn for the worst as they become stalked and hunted by a snowmobile riding killer dressed in all black. This film might sound cliche, but I thought it was really engaging and very intense. And the landscape is absolutely beautiful. With all the snow-covered mountains, everything looks gorgeous. Also, I thought it was pretty cool and clever that the song Let It Snow plays several times throughout the movie, and is even incorporated into the story. I should also say, if you watch this movie, make sure you stay after the credits. Overall, though, I thought this was a pretty damn good film, and I think it deserves more recognition. So if the weather outside is frightful and you don't have any place to go, then I definitely recommend watching Let It Snow. A creature was stirring. A nurse taking care of her daughter's mysterious affliction struggles to hide her secrets when uninvited strangers take shelter in her home during a lethal blizzard. I honestly have no idea where to begin talking about this movie. I tried thinking of a few words that would best describe this film, and I came up with shocking, surprising, chilling, mind-blowing, unsettling, disturbing, and stylish. This film stars Annalise Basso, who I know and love from Oculus and Slender Man, as well as the beautiful and talented Scout Taylor Compton, aka Laurie Strode from Rob Zombie's Halloween. And I honestly don't think I can talk very much about this movie without spoiling anything, but I'll try my best. This is a mysterious psychological creature feature. And I know this is random, but am I the only person who thought the monster on the poster looks exactly like Ryuk from Death Note? Anyways, the creature design in this film is very unique and memorable, and I thought it was very scary, unsettling, and creative. Also, the effects were very well executed. There's also some body horror in this film. I even saw one person comparing it to The Fly, and I can definitely see some similarities. I said this film was stylish earlier, but that might be an understatement. The whole aesthetic of this film is so beautiful and Christmassy and perfect for watching when it's snowing outside. All of the characters are trapped inside due to an enormous blizzard. It's so bad that they can't even get out of the house. The door is literally barricaded by all of the snow. And the inside of the house is completely covered in Christmas lights. The lighting of this movie is gorgeous. Every room and every scene is lit up with beautiful, vibrant, fluorescent red, green, and blue Christmas lights. This movie has the perfect combination of cozy and Christmassy, but also eerie and ominous. Okay, so now that I've talked about all of the positive things that I enjoyed about this movie, I will now discuss the ending, which I've been dreading to talk about. Like I said earlier, I won't spoil anything, but I feel like I need to warn people, because to say the ending of this movie is controversial would probably be an understatement. So the story starts wrapping up, and I was thinking, I really enjoyed this movie, and I'm glad they ended the story this way. But then I realized there was still about 10 minutes left of the movie. And in the last 10 minutes of this movie, there is an enormous twist ending that changes the entirety of the film. It's what most people would refer to as a mind fuck. But it is extremely, extremely dark and twisted and demented and just very fucked up, honestly. I know I probably sound like a baby admitting this, but I had trouble sleeping after watching this movie. I just couldn't believe how the last 10 minutes changed the entire film. And I couldn't get over how sickening the ending of this movie made me feel. This movie is 1 hour and 35 minutes long. But if you want to watch it and have it end happily and avoid the disturbing, extremely fucked up ending, then I would recommend turning it off at 1 hour, 23 minutes, and 50 seconds. Overall, I did really enjoy this movie. The creature is creepy and memorable. The aesthetic and atmosphere is beautiful and very Christmassy. And the characters were all very interesting. I just wish the movie ended earlier and didn't throw in a last-minute twist ending that changes everything and just feels so out of place. But if you're looking for a Christmassy psychological creature feature that's really disturbing, then I suggest checking out A Creature Was Stirring. 13 Slays Till Xmas. On December 24th, 5 seemingly random men are invited to a dive bar by a mysterious email. They decide to pass the time by resurrecting the old tradition of telling scary stories on Christmas Eve. So this is a Christmas horror anthology film, and it's actually made by some of the same people who made Volumes of Blood, which is a Halloween anthology that I love. So I thought it was pretty fitting that those same people decided to make a Christmas anthology as well. The wraparound story in this film isn't anything special, but it's not bad by any means. There's just not much story to it, but I still found it enjoyable, and the characters were pretty funny as well. Plus, the bar made for a very cozy, Christmassy setting. I did really love the opening of this movie, though. As someone rifles through various newspaper articles, piecing them together to create a murder board, we also see several news reports on TV about numerous horrific crimes committed around Christmas time. Mass murders, disappearances, and bodies found mutilated. It really sets the tone for the film, and feels very ominous and mysterious. Now, since there are 13 stories in this film, as the title would suggest, I'm not going to talk about each individual story, because that would take up way too much time. So instead, I picked 6 of my favorite tales from this anthology, and I'm going to be discussing those primarily. The first one is called It's a Wonderful Death, which is basically a darker take on It's a Wonderful Life, except instead of an angel visiting a man trying to help him and convince him not to kill himself, it's a fallen angel visiting a man trying to convince him that he should kill himself. This might sound like a one-note idea, but I really liked the dark twist on It's a Wonderful Life, and I'm honestly surprised no one's ever thought of this idea before. The next one is called Don't Kill Santa on Christmas Eve. And at first, you might think it's going to be a Home Alone type of story, because it involves 2 burglars breaking into someone's house on Christmas Eve. But they aren't there to steal anything. They've broken into this house for other nefarious reasons. And I can't say much else about the story because I don't want to spoil it, but I thought the effects were very well done, and I didn't expect it to go in the direction that it did. The third story is called Kringles the Christmas Clown, and it's probably my favorite. It's about a dad who tells his son a scary story about an evil clown who works for Santa Claus, in order to get him to go to sleep, but the story he tells his son ends up coming true. I absolutely love any type of story involving an evil Santa Claus character, and I especially love the idea of an evil Christmas clown. So I thought this story was a lot of fun, and I really wish it was a full-length feature film, because I would love to see an evil Krampus Santa type of clown killer. The next story is called A Christmas to Dismember, and it's about a police officer trying to track down an escaped mental patient who wreaks havoc on Christmas Eve, leaving behind a path of destruction and ruined lives. This story was very well put together, and had several different layers and lots of twists and turns. I absolutely loved it. The 5th story is called The Devil's Due, and it weaves the tale of a father and daughter in mourning. Through pure desperation, the father made a deal, and now it's time for him to pay the price when a mysterious entity comes to collect. This one definitely has the best acting in the whole film. The dad was absolutely incredible, and showed a wide variety of different emotions. Props to the actor, whoever played him did a fantastic job. And the last story I'm discussing is called The Scarionette, and it involves 2 girlfriends decorating for Christmas, and while searching for more decorations in the attic, they find an eerie-looking elf doll and decide to put it on display, unaware of the nightmares it will soon cause them. I really loved the design of the doll in this story. It looked kinda like Sally from Nightmare Before Christmas, mixed with the doll from Coraline, because it has very large button eyes. I was also very pleased to see that this film had some LGBTQ representation. And that's all the stories I'll be discussing in this film. I don't think there's one bad story in this movie, though. Some are just better than others. Anthologies are like presents on Christmas morning. Some are really great, like a Blu-ray collection of your favorite horror franchise, and some are not so great, like a pack of underwear from your grandmother. But the great thing about this anthology is that even when a story isn't great, it's never terrible or boring. And all of the stories are relatively short, so even if there's one you aren't liking very much, it will be over before you know it. But overall, all of the stories are really unique and memorable, and very Christmassy. This film has tons of Christmas atmosphere and is covered in Christmas decor. So if you're like me and you love Christmas horror anthologies, this is one that you can't miss. So I definitely recommend checking out 13 Sleighs Till Xmas. It's Me, Billy, Chapter 2, a Black Christmas fan film. Sam and her grandmother, now trapped and alone, must fight back against the clutches of Christmas evil before they're swallowed whole by its sinister darkness. So if you don't already know, It's Me, Billy is a direct sequel to the 1974 film Black Christmas. Yes, it's a fan film, but it's so well made that if you didn't know any better, you would think it was a theatrical film. It's Me, Billy Chapter 1 is about 42 minutes, and Chapter 2 is 46 minutes, and both parts are half of a whole. So if you watch both chapters together, you get a full-length feature film. And that's absolutely what I recommend doing. You definitely shouldn't watch Chapter 2 without watching Chapter 1. And you shouldn't watch Chapter 1 without watching the original classic, Black Christmas, from 1974. So like I mentioned earlier, this movie has a very high production value. Visually, it looks like a big-budget theatrical movie, which is very impressive considering this is a fan film. The cinematography is also incredible. Everything looks so beautiful and well shot. And I know I said something similar when I reviewed Chapter 1 last year, but the use of Christmas lights in these two films is ingenious. They use them in so many different ways, more than just for decoration. They use them to light certain scenes, they incorporate the lights into certain parts of the story, and of course, it just fits the whole film so well, considering the whole thing takes place on Christmas and Christmas Eve. This whole movie is really tense and suspenseful. One scene in particular with Billy is extremely eerie and unsettling. Whoever the actor is, he did an incredible job at playing the character. Another thing that makes this movie so great is that actress Lynn Griffin, who played Claire Harrison in the 1974 film, returns in this as Claire's sister. I just always think it's incredible when fan films can get legacy actors to reprise their roles, or even just come back to the franchise that fans love so much. If you love the Black Christmas franchise, or even just the original, you absolutely need to check out both of these fan films. So if you're a big fan of the Black Christmas franchise and you've been craving something new, then I highly recommend checking out It's Me, Billy, Chapter 2. The Sacrifice Game. It's bad enough that boarding school students Samantha and Clara can't go home for the holidays. But things take a deadly turn when a murderous gang of wanted criminals arrive on their doorstep, just in time for Christmas. Okay, I know at the beginning of all of my videos I always say, this list isn't in any kind of order, but number 1 is my absolute favorite. But let me just say, I had a very, very difficult time choosing which movie should be number 1 in this video. Because I absolutely loved this movie, and I really debated on whether or not I should make this the number 1 film on my list. It was honestly almost impossible to choose, so I guess this is pretty much a tie with my number 1 choice. This film is very, very similar to one of my all-time favorite films, The Blackcoat's Daughter. Both films are about two girls who get left behind at their private school during holiday break. Both films share the same eerie feeling and are both extremely moody and atmospheric, with beautiful snowy scenery and a very creepy, isolated setting and location. And this movie is very violent. The opening scene is really fast paced and not at all how I expected the movie to begin. I also really liked and cared for the two main characters. The actresses who played them did an outstanding job. Their performances were absolutely incredible. And this film also has a pretty good amount of twists and turns, none of which I was expecting. And it's also a combination of different subgenres in horror. So you think the movie might be predictable at first, but then something else will happen and it adds a whole new element to the story. So this film never gets boring. I was intrigued and invested the whole time. And probably my favorite thing about this movie is that it does such a great job at blurring the lines on who is right and who is wrong. It's not just a black and white story about good versus evil. Plus, the ending was very unexpected. I really enjoyed it, and I think it's very different from anything I've ever seen done before in movies with similar concepts. And of course, this movie is even more perfect because it all takes place at Christmas time. It's both funny and very fucked up because there's so many horrible things happening to the characters, but they are literally being forced to celebrate Christmas. So even though they're in an awful, horrible situation, they still eat Christmas dinner and open their gifts while sitting by the tree. And I know I've said this exact same thing many times about other Christmas horror movies, but this film does such a wonderful job at balancing the creepy, eerie vibes with the cozy, Christmassy feelings. And I think that's a big reason why I love Christmas horror movies so much. Because if done properly, they have a mixture of this warm, loving, wholesome feeling, as well as the dark, depressing, deadly aspects of most horror films. And this film is no exception. It's bloody, violent, and fucked up, but also sweet, heartwarming, and of course, very Christmassy. So this holiday season, make some hot cocoa or pour yourself a glass of champagne, then sit back and watch The Sacrifice Game. Now, before I reveal the number one movie on my list, I want to talk about an honorable mention. The Chucky Yule Log. Join Chucky, the notorious killer doll, as he sits by the fire while enjoying a cup of hot cocoa and some festive holiday music. This isn't a movie or show necessarily. It starts with Chucky coming down the chimney like Santa Claus, and then for the most part, it's just him sitting by the fire while Christmas music plays in the background. But every couple minutes or so, there's a jump scare where various scenes from the franchise will play showing Chucky murder someone. When I first saw this, I was washing dishes and I thought the whole thing was just Chucky sitting in the chair. So when the jump scares happened and it showed clips of Chucky killing people, I genuinely got scared. As someone who loves Chucky and horror movies in general, this is such a cool, cute thing to just throw on in the background while wrapping presents or cleaning your room or anything like that. So this Christmas, drink some hot chocolate or a cup of eggnog, then sit back and watch the Chucky Yule Log. And now, the number one movie on my list, and one of the best new Christmas horror movies of all time is Terrifier 3. After surviving Art the Clown's Halloween massacre, Sienna and her brother struggle to rebuild their shattered lives. As the holiday season approaches, they try to embrace the Christmas spirit and leave the horrors of their past behind them. However, just when they think they're safe, Art returns, determined to turn their holiday cheer into a new nightmare. So I'll be honest, I was a little bit worried when I first heard Terrifier 3 would be Christmas themed. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely love Christmas horror movies, obviously, but every film featuring Art the Clown up until this point takes place on Halloween. So I was a little bit concerned about the holiday switch up. Imagine, for instance, if we got a Michael Myers movie, but instead of it being a Halloween film, it was a Christmas movie. But then I realized that would actually be really awesome. And once I saw Art the Clown dressed up as Santa, all of my worries and concerns disappeared. As a Terrifier movie, this film is incredible. And as a Christmas horror movie, this film is fantastic. It would be hard for me to pick a favorite kill from this movie, because I honestly don't know if anything will ever top the split down the middle kill from the first Terrifier film. But I will say there's a few scenes involving a shard of glass that absolutely blew my mind, to say the least. But I also love seeing Art the Clown come up with new creative ways to kill and torture people. I specifically love that he found a way to basically freeze people to death in this movie. So if I was forced to pick a favorite kill in this film, it would probably be that one. However, this movie has much more to offer than just the violent kills. It also has some great character development. It's insane that even though we've only seen 2 movies so far featuring the character of Sienna Shaw, she has already become one of this generation's most badass and beloved final girls in horror. Lauren Laverda is so incredibly talented in these films. The range of emotions that she has to go through in this film in particular is unbelievable, and she expresses those feelings and emotions so perfectly. As if she's not even acting, and she's actually feeling everything that the character is. Because she just plays the role so well that everything seems so authentic and genuine. And not only is she a fantastic actress, she's also an incredibly talented stunt woman. She performs at least 90% of her own stunts, which is honestly just incredible. Also, I guess this part could be a spoiler, but it happens in the opening scene, so I don't think it matters. I absolutely love that Art breaks into a family's home pretending to be Santa, kills them all, eats the milk and cookies that were left out for Santa Claus, but then he's kind enough to wash the plate when he's finished. I think that represents and shows so much of who Art the Clown is, how he can be so terrifying and gruesome, but then at times seems so sweet and innocent. This movie also has fantastic Christmas atmosphere. There's even a few Black Christmas references and Easter eggs throughout the film. The most memorable one being Art the Clown sitting in a rocking chair up in the attic of an old house, exactly like in the original Black Christmas. Plus, every single house and dorm room and pretty much every single location in this movie is covered with Christmas trees, Christmas lights, Christmas wreaths, and every single type of Christmas decoration you can imagine. And I know I already mentioned it, but Art the Clown dressed up as Santa is literally one of the best things ever. He kills someone dressed up as Santa Claus, steals their costume, and then cuts off their beard and wears it as if it's part of the costume. Then he goes to the mall pretending to be a pre-hired Santa Claus and starts giving out presents to all of the kids waiting in line to meet Santa. And I won't spoil anything, but I will say I personally loved how that whole scene at the mall played out. And I'm not gonna lie, the ending of this movie made me tear up a little bit. Some people live and some people die. But the thing that got me the most was the mirroring, or depending on how you interpret it, the recreation of the opening scene from the Ninth Circle, which was the first ever appearance of Art the Clown. Seeing him for the first time all those years ago, and then seeing him now recreating that iconic scene, is just unbelievable. It's crazy how far this character has come, and I'm so happy to finally see him get the love and attention and fame that he so rightfully deserves. This movie has everything you could possibly want from a Christmas horror film. Gruesome, bloody kills, a badass final girl, beautiful Christmas atmosphere, and of course, the best silent killer in town, Art the Clown. So this Christmas season, if you're craving a festive, bloody, violent movie that will fill you with glee, then I highly recommend watching Terrifier 3. Well, everybody, that's the end of my list. I hope you check out some of these freaky, festive flicks. Let me know if there's any other movies I missed. and I hope your holidays are filled with happiness and bliss. Until next time, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and Blessed Kwanzaa.